What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to rant a little bit about Microsoft/Xbox and then this Activision Blizzard thing, all right? We have seen quite the week with this thing behind me, okay? Now, I want to come across very transparent and very honest in the way that I haven't touched this thing. I haven't bought a Call of Duty game in like 10, 11, like and it's not like I'm like, it's the worst franchise of all time. I just truly do not care. I've pieced out so long ago. Okay? So I just want to kind of make that known. What I'm about to say, I am removed from it a little bit, but I don't think that changes anything. Here's where I'm going with this. We've talked about some things that Xbox needs to do once they kind of get the keys to enter Activision Blizzard, right? Even though they might remain their own entities and maybe they kind of report only to themselves, and obviously we've seen some management moves at Xbox to kind of oversee certain parts of it. There are some things that need to be done kind of day one, right? And some of the things are very serious. Some of them are more like gaming serious, right? Like bring back Spyro, bring back, whatever you prototype in the Transformers games, right? Like you can go down, and that is important because, consumer stuff and it's games. That's why we're here as we play games, right? So that is important. Another thing we've talked about is, some of the company, like the way they behave, right? The Bobby Kotick and the culture, I guess, right? That comes from that. That is a real thing that does affect people. And if that stuff is still going on or however it's still going on, if it is, right? You need to like smash that because you do not want that not even do you not want it associate. You don't want it to happen. And you also don't want it to happen like under you. You just bought them and it would be blamed now on Xbox. Xbox is now going to take the fall for anything like that would happen across any of these studios. But there's one other part to it that we maybe have talked about, but not too much. The monetization, the rushing of games, these things have got to stop. Now, I do think the rushing of games has been a thing that's been talked about the last year and a half, ever since this deal was, in a process, right? Call of Duty cannot be like happening the way that it's happening now. And I think this one behind me here is a really good indication. Now, again, like, I know people are enjoying the multiplayer. I've seen it. Again, like, I don't really care. I'm kind of removed from it. What I will say is at least the impressions that I've seen on the story, the 3.5 hours, the way the story actually unfolds itself and the ending. And then you got the reporting of how freaking rushed this game was, outrageously so. That is something that, granted, has been talked about. That needs to be squashed now, immediately. You can never have that, and that because it's not Xbox. That's the thing, right? I'm not trying to say like all of this falls under them. It will. It just doesn't right now, right? This cannot happen. Starting now, starting January 1st, starting whatever you want to say, the next Call of Duty game, you cannot have a report come out that says you made a game in a year and 4 months. You cannot do it. And then also just now, like, yeah, you can look at Metacritic and you can look at the scores and you can look at the user scores, and I would say there's probably something to it, but I don't like. Have you ever gone on Metacritic to look at some games, specifically the user scores? You got review bombing just for review bombing purposes. Now, I think it's more genuine with Call of Duty than it is versus other games. Sometimes if it's like a console warrior thing, right, you're going to get review bombing just because. For a game like this, I think it's a little bit more deserved, but that's not to discredit, again, like people that genuinely, number one, this game is still, I assume, selling amazing, like across the board, right? Like it's gonna make a lot of money. There's a lot of people playing the multiplayer. I think there's a lot of people enjoying it. But the single player obviously is which you can say, well, who cares? Well, it's part of the package. So they're selling it to you, so you should care. Even if you're not going to touch it, the fact of the rushing and just how atrociously bad, again, based off what I have seen, that should, I don't know. Like, you don't have to care, I don't suppose. I don't care if you don't care. But I believe that needs to be fixed, okay? On top of another thing that kind of set me off, and I thought, well, this would be a good time to talk about it. This is very timely because it just happened, right? But Diablo 4 and the microtransactions of Diablo 4, there was like that picture, I quote tweeted it on Twitter, and it's like is it really $70 for horse armor? Now, I know like when the game came out like a month, and like I played it. I played Diablo 4, and I actually liked like the core experience, but I'm not a massive Diablo fan, so like I've talked about my experience with Diablo 3 before. I don't play it for the 15 seasons it's going to have. I would not spend a dime beyond the initial purchase of the game. And I don't do that for like any game. It's been so long since I've like any live service game I don't really support like that. So But I think like what, a month or so after, there were those talks of like it was horse armor like $20, $30, and there was the whole dilemma with the season pass and the way the game kind of tried to trick people into clicking it, because you're just like one click away from using your free season pass on a season pass. Like it was garbage. It was really, really bad. It should not be surprising because, you know, Blizzard and some of the practices they've done in the past, right? Like, it didn't catch people off guard, but I guess it kind of did in terms of how bad it was. And then just the stuff like that they're doing now. Like, here's the thing. I, in my opinion, and this is coming from somebody that I play a lot of games. I don't play a lot of, I guess, live service games. When you show me that any kind of pack for a game, like the Diablo one we're talking about, I don't care what's in it. I don't care if it gives you like, well, unless it gives you the full game, right? I don't care what's in this pack. If you tell me that there's a pack for DLC / live servicey kind of elements for a game, and it's $70, which is the price of the base game, you've lost me, okay? That should never happen. Now, can people spend more than like what they spent on the game? Yeah, that oftentimes happens, but I would prefer, if you're going to do, well, firstly, I don't really like that across the board. Secondly, if you're going to do that, I'd prefer it to be on smaller purchases. Like if you buy 500 things that are like $2 each and you spend $1,000, that's on you. But also, you know, it's only $2. You're the one who bought like 500 of them, all right? But if you tell me that there's a pack available that's $70 and it's not even all that great, at least from what I'm seeing, and that's the price of the game, yeah, you've lost me. And I don't know, like, does it actually impact anything? I feel like there's a huge chunk, maybe not the majority, there's a huge chunk of the internet that despises what they've done with Diablo 4. Yet again, the game is sold, the game is being played, there are people that like it. You can't discredit, I would say, either of those. You really can't. So at the end of the day, does it really matter? Maybe not. Maybe those things don't actually matter. For my personal opinion, optically, I think like morally, to be honest with you, like coming from me, I think Xbox needs to fix this stuff. But here's where I come from it. Xbox or Microsoft, they are loaded. They're loaded with money. So my question would be, why would you need to make billions yearly on a live service Diablo, like Diablo 4, making billions every year? Why would you need to do that? And I guess like you could say, well, for more money. But like, you're bought by a company that, you know, does whatever they want. And that's not necessarily a negative. You could look at it as a negative if you want, but Microsoft is loaded, and they can spend it on literally whatever, right? As they have, and not just in gaming, like literally just across like the world, okay? So it's like, why do you need to do it? And it's the same thing for Call of Duty. I don't think that's like unreasonable. I think that's actually the crux of the Call of Duty thing. You do not need to release a COD yearly anymore. Now, I'm not saying it takes a year to make it. Obviously, you know, they have the rotation. It's like 3 to 4 years that they give them, right, to make it. You don't need to do that, though, anymore. You could take 5 years, each, you know, studio that does it. You can release a COD every other year because you don't need that money. Now, again, like, you could argue, like, yes, they do. Not really, because I feel like because you're now under Xbox's umbrella, why would you? Why would you? And obviously, I think it's a little bit more complex than that, so my simple mind, maybe it doesn't understand, but I think that's the idea, at least for me. And ultimately, I think it would actually work out, because if you release a COD every other year, the quality would be, I would imagine, so much better, right? You might make more on an average, like that 1 year. I don't know if you'd make as much as you would 2 years for a COD game that releases both years, but maybe you make enough for 1.5 years. So maybe you only lost like half a year of revenue that you would have made. Same thing for Diablo. Do you need to be charging $70? Can you charge $15 now that you're owned by a company that has unlimited wealth? Why do you need to charge $70? Guess you can make that argument for anything, I suppose, but I feel like it looks worse now. It's always going to look bad charging $70 for like skins or armor for horses, okay? But then like when you're owned by like this mega corporation, I think it looks worse, because do you have to do that? I don't think you needed to in the first place, because it's kind of predatory, and also you made money off the base game. You can make money in other ways. Do you have to do it this way? Like, you could already argue that, I think, just in the first place. Then you're also getting funding from a company that has no limit, right? So do you need to charge $70 for a horse? Like, does that need to happen? I don't think it does, but that's just me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.